given how far down the rabbit hole I have fallen down this process, I definitely needed. So I became like a upgraded member. Today we talk about the High CSS Voyager and the music of the Innovation Forge. Let's see how innovation meets artistry as we forge something extraordinary together.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
Today I announced the winner of the Consultant Cadre Naming Competition. The second to last one. I think penultimate, I think that's what that is. But first, I want to talk about the music from the Innovation Forge. For the actual episodes, I've been using music from Kevin MacLeod, and love the music, wonderful vibe. And one of the things that I had kind of seen people were doing when I was trying to figure out how to do my own music for the podcast was people were using AI music. And I just wasn't too sure like where that was legally and how hard it was and what that process was. So Kevin has great, Incompetech has great music and found some wonderful music that fit the show really well. I use it throughout the segments. But I was actually... I had this hankering of just like Audible has their free Audible library when you're a member, and you kind of just get a urge like for a boring book sometimes that's really interesting, an interesting boring book, and I feel like their free library has a lot of those, and came across The Dead Outlaw, which was basically a musical book, and I was listening to this, really enjoyed the book. And I was just like, I feel like this is so in line with what the Innovation Forge is doing thematically, stylistically. Like, I could totally do this with music. I have no musical abilities at all. I love music, really into musicals, theater, and all of that. No musical ability, no singing ability, anything like that. And I don't hear rhythm, tempo, whatever, I don't know. So I'm like, you know what, maybe I should check back into the whole AI music thing. And see if I could start crafting like narrative pieces. And I've been doing narrative fiction pieces even with the Innovation Forge, with like the Elderlith of the Eternal Stack and the Fieldsmith Register, stuff like that, which was like fictionalized stuff. And I just felt like if I could add a layer of like narrative music to this and songs to this, that would be very in line with what I'm already doing. And started with a combination of ChatGPT and Suno, and just love it. It's fantastic. I've spent entirely too much time making music. Dozens of albums already created, largely in the enrollment management sphere. I'll talk about it a bit more about those in a minute. But definitely went so far down that rabbit hole. And so thankful for that book and to kind of get me down that lane. But I wanted to talk about the music I've been creating for the Innovation Forge. So I have tons more ideas for albums and songs and stuff like that, but just kind of a snapshot of where I'm at now. I just wanted to kind of get a peek behind the curtain of this particular piece for this Coffee and Coals episode. So the first thing I did, I was like a free member on Suno, and I just started doing like, okay, I want to do like a 12-song album. A lot of the stuff I do is in 12s. It fits well if I do like a monthly release of something, then it's a year. If I do weekly releases, it's around 3 months or a quarter of a year. And so I wanted to do like a 12-song album for like the different episodes types of the Innovation Forge cast. And I did that. That was really cool. And quickly realized like, oh, the quality of the music's a lot better if you are like a paid member, and just the volume of songs you get to create is a lot higher, which given how far down the rabbit hole I have fallen down this process, I definitely needed. So I became like a upgraded member, and then I was like, oh, you know, this fits so perfectly with the Forge Bellows as well. The Forge Bellows are 2 distinct newsletters that I'm running that will eventually be books. Also podcast them. The first one is on the Great Enrollpression, which is all of the kind of headwinds that higher education is facing at the moment. And then the other one is on adaptive enrollment management, which is that enrollment management framework I've been developing that's very adaptive, hence the name, but very tailored, data-centric, and student journey focused. And so I think what I'm settling on now is every other month I'll release a newsletter or an edition of the newsletter for these, and then I'm podcasting them once a month as well. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I already have my 12 topics for each of these newsletters. I have the articles already. I'm still going through the process with like the writing and the aggregating and all that. But I have like generally the articles that I think I'm going to end up using for each of the chapters. And like just creating a song based off of that topic. And that worked really well. I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I just kind of kept going. And then I wanted to do a more straight ahead, like musical or kind of a play of types of the prospective student process. So it's the first album in a trilogy of the Subject to. So it's Subject to Admission is the first one. And it's just that prospective student journey of finding out about colleges, applying, being denied, being accepted, hitting the dorm room. And that was really great. I think there's something special with that one. So I really enjoyed doing that. Looking forward to the other 2 of that trilogy too, but those are a little bit lower priority. I also wanted to kind of maybe help the outreach of the Innovation Forge, get folks kind of interested, so it's something a little bit more universal. So I took each of the Codex practitioners, plus a technosmith, and the Codex practitioners are just like the different everyday artisans, datamancer, slate write, those kinds of things. And I chose musical style, and then I created about an hour-and-a-half long series of songs, just like study music, kind of like that lo-fi study music kind of thing. And I just created about an hour-and-a-half for each one of those. By far, the Ethersmith, Etherbound, sorry, not the Ethersmith. That's definitely taken off by far, 1,000 views, some good feedbacks and likes and stuff like that. So really enjoying like listening to those, and I think that can definitely find an audience in and of itself. Whether or not that brings the audience to the Innovation Forge, who knows? But I like having that study to music, and I liked having stuff that was a little bit more driving than maybe like a lo-fi hip-hop kind of thing, which I did find. I was listening to one of the creators on YouTube who did a lot of those, like more violins, a little bit more aggressive and driving. Again, I don't know anything about music, so but just had a little bit more drive to it, which helpful. And then so that was like the Codex sessions. There was 13 albums of just instrumental music, different types of and styles of music, depending on kind of what you like, what you're into, what kind of mood you're feeling for. And then I wanted to do a little bit more in depth on each of the Codex practitioners. And the first one was the Metallurgist. I think I definitely have an affinity for that one. And I wanted to do this kind of stripped down an evening with the Metallurgist. So very like kind of like the MTV Unplugged sessions, or just kind of you're at a jazz club, piano bar kind of thing with the Metallurgist, and he's just taking you through the evening. I think probably a few too many drinks and a few too inhibitions in how he's talking about his story. So I really enjoyed that. And then I kind of wanted to do one for each of the Codex practitioners then. And I was kind of keeping, like, for the first couple, I kind of kept that, I think the Gather Quill and the Threadweaver, I kind of kept that very stripped down, maybe piano, maybe an acoustic guitar. And it worked for the Gather Quill, a little bit more folksy. It didn't work for the Threadweaver at all. Like, just did not like it. So I kind of took a pass at that, and I really, really enjoyed what the Threadweaver ended up becoming. And I think I'm about halfway through those. I think I have the songs for all of them, like the lyrics and stuff like that. I just don't have the actual finished songs for each of the Codex practitioners. Kind of just other shiny album projects that I'm working on at the moment. But I look forward to getting all those up. That's 12 albums right there. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I also have the other group, which is what actually started me doing these kind of character archetypes, which was the Enrollment Aces. These are like the Slate Captain, the Architect, the Trend Tracker, things like that. And there's only 10 of those. Kind of hadn't stumbled onto the set to 12 when I did those. So those are on deck with the wild card, on deck with the Slate Captain. It kind of fixes, those originally started as trading cards, and then deck with the Slate Captain. I figured the Slate Captain would kind of be the anchor archetype for those albums. So those have also been a ton of fun to do. Again, Slate Captain, like that was, I had done that album, it just wasn't feeling the music, redid it, and now it's a very Irish sea shanty kind of deal. Really big fan of that one. But the Slate Wizard's also a lot of fun. The Metricurgist for An Evening With, I think that's also one of my favorites. If we're picking favorites. But anyways, and each one of those are a little bit different. Like the Metricurgist is a very fun, playful data exploration, whereas like the Metallurgist, I wanted to really craft what is a person's journey through, or what's their career journey. And I felt like that really hit on some interesting aspects of our careers in higher education and enrollment management. So they're all a little bit different, and this Slate Wizard's just kind of a very fun, in-theme, bardcore, stomp, clap, hey kind of music. So I really I only like one of them I think I might redo in the future. But so far I've really been enjoying the process of creating this music, and actually just listening to it. I've listened to so few podcasts the last couple of months just because I've been listening to this music, whether it's to fine-tune, tweak, select for the albums, or just listening to it just to listen to it. That's the nice part about creating the AI songs, is you get to create the musicality that you enjoy and lyrics. Like I'm not going to pull up Spotify and listen to enrollment management music. I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people would want to. So yeah, that's been so much fun being able to create those songs and listen to them. But I did it for like an institution. Didn't actually reference the institution name. But if you know, you know. And see if I can do this here at my home institution as well sometime. And I did we're doing like a configurable joins query training, so I did like a song for that. I have tons of ideas for institution side, what we can do with these songs, but just talking about for the podcast at the moment. I've also started doing song recaps for my interview guests. At this moment, you can go listen to Tommy Kroll's and Annie Leewald's songs. I'm sure I'll have more of them up in the coming months. By the time this probably goes out, I'm trying to get ahead on the record schedule a bit. I really loved the album cover I did for Tommy Kroll's. Very, is it AJR? I think he said he likes that band. So it had the two of us with their kind of little avatar character designs on an album cover that felt very in world with what they did with their cover albums, album covers. So yeah, starting to do it for the interview guests. I've also done 4 full musicals, and 2 of those musicals are actually 3 albums each. So a lot of really narrative-driven stories with the musicals. So there's like Forge Against the Darkness, which is the Enrollment Aces versus the Great Enrollpression aspects. And that one actually came when I was doing the Data Night. And a couple of the songs were like the siege against false data or something like that. And I was just like, oh, this is like so Lord of the Rings if it was a musical and about enrollment management. And I'm like, oh, I would love to listen and see that. So I did a 3-album, so 36-song concept albums musical about that. I will say that the most annoying thing, at least from what I can tell so far, is you can't really assign a voice to each of your characters. So from song to song, your characters will sound different. And maybe there's a way I can do those voice assignments, and I just don't know yet how to do it. But that's definitely the most frustrating part, is when you have these narrative arcs for characters and groups of characters, especially because these musicals have like 10, 12 like protagonists, very ensemble driven, and then like the villains and stuff like that. It's really hard to follow as a listener. There's a couple songs where like, no, this character who passes away needs to very clearly be that character, so I need it to be like a female voice, or I need to be a male voice because there's two characters. No spoilers as to which, but they don't make it in that musical, and I just kept regenerating because I just couldn't get them to for those really important moments be correct. It might be because I'm just overstuffing them, doing too many song notes and stage directions and stuff like that in the lyrics. But that's definitely been a pain point. And I imagine in a year that probably will be a functionality, and I'll have to like regenerate all these to get a little bit more clarity in the albums. But yeah, so that was like the first big musical that I had created through the AI music generators. A lot of fun. I think so the next one I did though was the Broker's Bargain, which pits the Codex practitioners against the broker, which is a really fun, very Disney-esque consultant who's just like coming in like, oh, you can do this the easy way or you can do it your way, but if you go my way, it'll be easy, your board will love you, we'll get you the numbers, it'll be great. And we're kind of a race to get the implements of the perpetual flux, which is another aspect of just enrollment management I've gone into with some of the writings and podcasts. Things like yield dice and the fast hourglass. So just ways to kind of teach enrollment management in kind of a fun narrative way. So that was also, again, I think that was, 3 albums. Basically each act is an album, 3 acts structure. And again, really frustrating because there's so many characters to not be able to assign those voices, and it makes it really hard to follow, but great songs. I need to just do like a best of the Broker album because I really liked that one. I was a fan. And then the most recent was the ranking bracket, which is like U.S. World News college rankings, very cheeky. And then also the Golden Admit Letter, which is like a game show of the prospective students trying to get admitted into college. Again, a little cheeky. Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble for these probably at some point when people start paying attention to the songs and the lyrics. But the musicals have been so much fun. Have a ton of ideas for those. And actually, I'm working on a series right now. Basically, a 10-album musical series. Very much are structured like a TV series, like a 10-season TV series about an enrollment professional who is starting out in the profession, grows, counselor to slate captain to consultant to admissions director to a VP, as I spoiled the entire 10-album character arc for this character. So I'm a few albums into that as well. Really enjoying that process as well. I've really enjoyed drawing out the content every time. So like when I did the music album of the Innovation Forge, it was just, okay, Codex practitioners each got, like, there's 2 songs to cover 12 practitioners. And I was like, oh, I love doing an entire album on a practitioner. Now I'm really living into the student, and I do want to do like a prequel where they're a student worker, but that's not part of the 10-season structure. But I really love being able to follow the narrative arc of a person through these 10 seasons and being able to just really live into all the different aspects of being a new professional, doing the road travel, trying to help students, the rivalries, the friendships, the bosses, all of those pieces. And I just really enjoy being able to explore that arc with more time. And I think I'm definitely getting that time with the 10 albums. And I'm breaking the rule a little bit. The first album was 12 songs. The rest of the albums are running longer than that, more like 15, 16. But yeah, I love seeing how they work their way up the ladder, on all the detours they're taking, the people they meet. and if I'm hoping also to have those good side characters, maybe do some spinoffs and prequels for them as well. I think the rivalry is being a lot of fun, especially with some of the songs. Those have been fun. And I also have like one-off songs for albums that didn't work. I really wanted to do a Slate album, and I took a couple passes at that and just was never really working. And it kind of was like, kind of also trying to pull back from being so Slate-centric, just because I am in no way, shape, or form officially officiated with, if not officially officiated, affiliated with them in any way. So I don't want them until like in a year come and say, like, hey, no, you gotta take all this down. So I am trying to slowly withdraw from, maybe like instead of a Slate captain, it's just captain. And then the future archetypes, so I have like the Enrollment Aces, the Codex Practitioners. I have a couple more groups that I want to create that I think I will more fully just divest in the system-specific language that I've been using on their titles and stuff like that. And so yes, I have some one-off songs that like from the albums didn't really work, but I really enjoyed the songs. And I'm also doing a thing on LinkedIn where every workday, like Monday through Friday, I'm posting one of these songs. So follow me on LinkedIn, and you can get a kind of a musical journey, or just follow me on YouTube at it's David Dysart. I just use my old YouTube channel. I'm very excited. I think I unlisted all my old videos, but that Etherbound is about to become my 5th most viewed video. I've just been waiting to get like 10 more views so I can do a LinkedIn post on it. But yeah, really excited to explore all these ideas and concepts and archetypes, and like I said, be a little cheeky with some of the content through the songs, which yeah. No, the music has been a really fun project, and again, way too far down the rabbit hole, spending way too much time on it, but really enjoying the process and loving listening to the music. But I've also babbled on about this for I think 20 minutes now, so we should move on to I should do songs for these backstories that I've been doing for these. But let's talk about the tale of Sir H.T. Millington rendering the High CSS Voyager. In the early days of Slate portals, when admissions offices first ventured beyond static forms and into the wild waters of personalized design, there was little to guide them but default templates and sparse documentation. The portals were functional, yes, but plain, and many enrollment officers cried, "Arg, how do I change this banner size? How do I make this look like our marketing site? Why won't this margin behave?" Few dared to voyage into the uncharted waters of CSS styling, liquid syntax, and JavaScript integrations. Those treacherous high CSS seas. That is, until Sir H.T. Millington Renderwing arrived. Once an ordinary design parrot perched upon the shoulder of a university web developer, H.T. Millington had watched carefully. He absorbed the ways of responsive design, learned the lore of viewport widths, and deciphered the mysterious scrolls of style sheets. One fateful stormy night, a rogue deployment forced the developer to abandon ship, leaving H.T. Millington to steer the project alone. With a squawk of determination and a hook adapted for quick keyboard shortcuts, H.T. Millington took to the seas. He mastered Slate Voyager, sailed through page header scripting, and pitched rogue containers with perfect padding. Soon the Slate Rights summoned him. High CSS Voyager, Captain Cascadius, swashbuckler of styles, pirate of personalization. With every institution he visited, H.T. Millington helped admissions teams transform their portals, landing pages, and emails, making them as vibrant as their institution's missions. And while others fear broken layouts, H.T. Millington sails confidently into the storms of nested divs and viewport conflicts. Legend says if your portal styling suddenly fixes itself overnight, H.T. Millington may have paid you a visit. His motto on his beak: voyaging where configurable joins cannot reach. Thank you for joining me on this probably longer episode of Coffee and Coals than usual. I'm looking forward really to doing more of the music, more of these naming character names, and we are quickly running out of the Consultant Cadre. I technically have 10 that I've put out into the universe. I have a couple more that I was working on for the next series, but I think I'm going to switch from the Consulting Cadre to do the naming of the Enrollment Aces. And I think after Enrollment Aces, we'll move to the Codex Practitioners. And by then, 2 years later, I'll definitely have more groups that need namings. I'm also so excited for the next musical, for the next batch of character archetypes. Because it's a musical idea that I've wanted to do, but it works too well to incorporate the next round of archetypes. So I have to wait until I publicly release that next batch. And I'm just doing so much with the Codex Practitioners and the Enrollment Aces right now that it's hard to slot in. It was kind of once a season, so maybe in season 3 I'll do it, but I also am expanding the Codex Practitioners beyond the 6 that I covered in season 2 into the 12. So probably season 4. I'll get into that next group. So yeah, anyways, so yeah, next month we have the form editor, which is this wonderful caterpillar turning into a butterfly with a little clipboard and a pin, and collecting data through Slate forms, form editor button. So yeah, no. I'm explaining what is obviously a very obvious joke, apparently. So I look forward to next month covering the form editor, and I think I'm talking about my next book, actually. It's The Innovation Forge, from posters to... I probably should just know this since... from posters to practice, Volume 1, Journeys. Which is all inspired by my love for the old travel posters and the old spirits, the really nice illustrated vintage posters. So yeah, we'll talk about that more next month. And again, I'm recording this so early, but this will definitely be out by November, the book itself to purchase. So really excited for that. But until next time, please remember to strike true. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast, or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together. Remember to strike true as we forge something extraordinary together. Welcome to the Innovation Forge. I thought advancement systems would be safer, slower, more ceremonial than, sentient. But I was wrong. So wrong. I pulled historical giving data, just a surface scan, just a clean little export, but the file, it grew. Not corrupted, but expanding. Each time I opened it, more columns appeared: affinity signature, gratitude imprint, resonance tier, and a final column simply labeled remembered. I checked with the advancement team. They'd never seen those fields before. Said it must have just been a plugin. But when I checked the plugin list, there was no plugin. Just a note in the logs. RE: the binder is benevolent. Do not inquire. I thought it was a joke until I visited the donor archive room. The portraits, painted, not printed, they had names beneath them that weren't in our database. But when I whispered them aloud, the lights flickered, the temperature, it got so cold. Something moved behind the donor wall, a long shape. It coiled around the plaques like rosary beads. It smiled, not with a face, just with recognition. The memory binder doesn't just store records, it feasts on them. It weaves nostalgia into currency, thank you notes into binding contracts. The more you recall, the tighter it coils. I backed away. My badge scanned itself on the door. I didn't touch anything, I swear. I just got a confirmation email? A recurring gift to my name. I didn't make it. But I would feel guilty about canceling it. As if something might forget me if I do. What happens if I'm forgotten? Razor's Edge, the memory binder of the benevolent maw. It remembers those who give, and it never forgets who stops.